Yeah, sound good. What's happening, Max?
How's it going, Ira?
Everything's good. How about you?
Everything's going good. How are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on the Jets draft this year? I'm curious.
Well, you have to be realistic about it.
Hmm.
Um, I think going into the draft, they had 8 picks. They ended up selecting 7 players. I felt that they had to walk away with a minimum of 3 starters, and I think they accomplished that because, you know, the tackle, tight end, and believe it or not, I think the safety from Alabama.
Hmm.
I think they're pretty much locks to start, especially the safety, because you can't give up 2 or 3 draft picks, whatever they did to move up to get him in the, I thought it was the 4th round or the 5th round, I
Hmm.
forget.
I think it was the
Um,
fifth. Was it the fourth? I think it was the fourth.
the 4th, yeah. So to trade up and give up 2 draft picks to get him, that's not for a role player. That's for somebody that's projected as a starter.
Hmm. What is your reaction to, because the news broke yesterday, Jordan Travis retiring, because it's just another brutal pick that the Jets have made over the years, and it's unfortunate because he seemed as though he had potential, especially when he was in college. He was a great player, but it's just another evaluation of that the Jets just don't know how to draft.
Yeah, well, I was kind of surprised that he retired. I felt bad for him,
Hmm.
but I didn't expect him to be in the training camp roster or at least get through training camp if he could play because it came out a couple of weeks ago, a couple of months ago. His agent came out and said that the previous regime, the coaching staff and training staff, um, they rehabbed him and they were trying to accelerate the process, and he had a setback.
Hmm.
So the agent was blaming the Jets for that. So I figured, he's definitely a goner. It's unfortunate that, he had to retire.
It is, yeah. It was definitely shocking to hear about it, and now it's just another long list of quarterback names, and hopefully Justin Fields is the right pick. Were you upset that the Jets didn't at least try to get Sanders now, especially knowing that they're down another quarterback on the roster, maybe in the later rounds?
I'm not, I wouldn't have touched him. And
Hmm.
now with everything that's coming out, there's no way in the world I would have drafted this guy with the first pick of the list. But because it's just, FaceTiming during meetings and, walking around with $1 million in a suitcase and, blowing off interviews because you don't want the team to draft you. And it just, this guy, he's going to flame out like Johnny Manziel did. It's going to be, it's good. And not because of ability. I just think he's got a real bad attitude situation.
I think too, when you go to Cleveland, that's like the place where, I mean, we could talk about the Jets. It's where the quarterbacks basically their careers go to die. It's same as it's pretty much the same with the Browns when you look at it too.
I don't think he's going to be in Cleveland. I think um if he knows if he gets cut, he could get picked up by another team. Did you actually see the reaction of the war room in Cleveland when they made the pick?
I did see it, and they were telling him that, oh, prove all the people that passed up on you wrong, and they were one of the teams that
Mm,
passed up on him too.
no, that's not the clip that I saw. When they made the announcement, it looked like they were all miserable. To me,
Oh, that must have
to,
been the after that, after they called him and everything.
right after
Hmm.
they
Yeah.
called, exactly. And how I think, once again, I'm just speculating, but what I think went down here, and this has nothing to do with racial stuff. I'm just talking about the situation. I think it was embarrassing to the NFL, and I think they were being accused of a lot of things. And I think Goodell got in the owner's ear, and I think the owner from Cleveland made them draft a quarterback.
Hmm.
And I think unless he shines over the summer, he's going to be a practice squad player, or maybe even get cut.
It's possible. It really is. And I think a lot of it was the hype too that really elevated up to it. There's just so much hype around him, and I don't know. I just want to see the Jets move in the right direction, and I'm hoping that Justin Fields is their guy because I'm just tired of the never-ending carousel of quarterbacks, and I feel as though that the nonsense has definitely stopped, and I think the nonsense has continued in regards to when you look at Ulbricht's son being the one who pranked them.
That was so sad. That really was. I actually felt bad for Sanders with that situation. It's a funny thing with the draft. Now, I don't know who these kids are. They signed a whole bunch of undrafted free agents, right? Mm-hmm. But believe it or not, I know what Membo's going to be. I believe I know what Taylor's going to be. But I have more curiosity to see what this, I think his name is Corey Davis, the kicker from Ole Miss. Mm-hmm. And this Brady Cook, the quarterback that they took from Missouri, that they signed from Missouri. Mm-hmm. And, some of the highlights of Cook, a quarterback from Missouri, he looked like he has a little promise to maybe, well, you would think he's going to be the third quarterback now. Mm-hmm. And who knows, he might develop. But I still, I don't know what Fields is going to turn into. But I'm going what I saw coming out of college, and I liked him. And I don't know what went wrong in the pros. I just know that he showed little improvement each year. And I think, he could be the next Geno Smith, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold. I really believe that.
Mm-hmm. I hope so, because it would put an end to the drought for quarterbacks, and when we need someone young, because when we look at Fitzpatrick, even though he had that 1 year and the year he came back, it was a disaster from there. But you really couldn't put much weight into him because he was on the older side, so you weren't going to get much time out of him. Whereas Fields, if he's the guy, you're going to have him for a long time.
Exactly. And it's one other thing about the draft. The only problem I had with the draft is that I think they took a flyer in the fourth round on that receiver, Smith, Alien. And, the fastest player in the draft, I get it. You get enamored by his speed. But you can't catch. So is he like the next Stephen Hill or Devin Smith, or does this guy actually have some potential to turn it around?
I hope so. Oh, Devin Smith was horrible. I think he barely even saw the field. I think he had one touchdown with the Jets. It was like in the back of the end zone. I remember that he was supposed to be this big stud outside of Ohio State. Oh, what a disaster that turned out to be.
Yeah, but he couldn't stay healthy, and we all know about Stephen Hill. But the thing that really I was a little surprised that they didn't address the defensive tackle spot, and I know they signed 3 or 4 free agents during the off season, but they're all, except for the guy from Kansas City who started for several years, they're pretty much all depth players. Maybe one steps up and grabs the role, but I found it. Let's be honest, no disrespect to Mooney or Aaron Glenn, but they just take the receiver who has speed and can't catch. And with the very next pick, the Eagles take the defensive tackle out of Nebraska. Now, which one are you going to hang your hat on? Who got it right?
I think the Eagles in this situation.
Right. So that's why when the Jets were on the clock, and I saw that the tackle was available, I said, "Oh, this guy definitely got to be a pick." And then they take some guy who's projected to go in the 7th round. So I was very surprised.
I hope that they made the right decision. I do like the way Aaron Glenn has been basically changing the whole view of the franchise now, because he's not giving anyone any of the garbage clips. I'm sure you saw the press conference where they asked him about his comments on the McAfee show, and he just basically completely ignored it.
Yeah, I'm just being sarcastic here. Once again, I'm rooting for Glenn, and I'm optimistic. But I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't even tell people when they're practicing. Yeah. He really has everything buttoned up. And one thing about Glenn, it's his show.
It is.
You could even see post press conference after the draft. Yeah, Glenn's doing all the talking, and Mookie's just sitting there like, he it's just like chaperoning Glenn to the interview. It was like the strangest thing.
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah, he's definitely really gained control. And this is what the Jets have needed. They needed to cut out all the nonsense that's been surrounding the franchise for years, especially with the media, all the nonsense, all the stories you always hear coming out about them. So I think it's good that Aaron Glenn has really brought this change to the Jets because it just gets them to focus on developing as a team and not worrying about the outside noise. I am curious, too, because the receivers, in my opinion, the Jets receiving room is horrible. I think I've been seeing these rumors about Keenan Allen, but I also want to bring up this Breece Hall rumors, supposedly that he's going to get traded. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, now once again, I got two opinions on the Breece Hall thing. The first one is to trade him business sense. Mm-hmm. Because they're not going to franchise him next year for $12 million. That's not going to happen, right? Doesn't mean he would even sign it. And, he has been injury prone. Is he an explosive player? Yes. Do I like him? Yes. Do I want him on the team? Yes. But I don't want to lose him next year to free agency and get a compensatory pick for 27. That's not going to do me any good.
No.
So it's like, you're like caught in either decision, you're going to be paying the price. I mean, you can run him into the ground this year, hope he stays healthy, and then just let him walk and he's beat up. Or you trade him, but I mean, what are you going to get at this point for him? I mean, I'm not trading Breece Hall for a 4th or 5th round pick.
No. That's too low. I don't know. I think you're right. You have to really look at it from the business approach of it, and it has to be a smart move on the Jets because you don't want to get fleeced and just where you get nothing in return for him. So you got to make the right move. And I don't know. It's interesting because I feel as though he is their guy, but last year he had a big drop off. There wasn't much production, and we mentioned that too, him putting on the weight, and it was too much, and it wasn't the same. He wasn't as much of a speedy receiver as he's been in the past, but yeah, I'm more concerned too with the receiving lineup, though. I think it's abysmal.
Yeah, well, I would tend to agree with you. Just bouncing back to Hall, one just quick thing here. While I do think he's an explosive player, if Davis and Allen were to be 1-2 guys and they move Hall, right? You would assume if both of them stayed relatively healthy, they would combine for 1,500 to 1,700 yards rushing. You would think, right?
Yeah. I
mean, that's legitimate. They're both going to be able to catch the ball out of the backfield, and the thing to offset that. Yeah, of course, you'll have a third running back on the team, but Fields is probably going to get you 500 to 700 yards rushing.
Probably.
So it's like maybe that's how they're viewing it. I don't know.
Maybe it's possible. It's going to be interesting to see. And I just look back on it because when they first got all these guys like Gardner, Breece Hall, and Wilson, I remember it was clicking for them a little bit. I remember they had a lot of chemistry, and Michael Carter looked like he was going to turn into somebody. I was thinking about it the other day. I was like, there was so much momentum where you felt as though the Jets finally got it right. And then once Rodgers came here, it's like everything just went completely south.
Yes, Roger. It's they changed everything because of him. Mm-hmm. And, I think it affected Hall. I think, did Carter, was he on the roster that first year, or they had traded him at that
I think
point?
he was on the roster, but they ended up trading him.
They ended up trading him, right? And he showed promise too. So it's going to the receiving room, like you said. Okay, well, of course, Wilson's number one. Mm-hmm. I'm not even counting Smith. All right,
no,
that's who they just drafted. I think Taylor. I think the game plan is he's going to be a big part of the passing game, and that'll kind of offset not having a true number 2 receiver. Mm-hmm. And I think you could probably get by with Reynolds and Lazard as your third. And I guess the slot guy is going to be Corlier Smith, I would assume.
Mm-hmm. That's what it seems like so far. I don't know. Like I said, have you seen the rumors that maybe Keenan Allen, or I'm even seeing this? I read this Jameson Williams from the Lions. What are your thoughts on these rumors of receivers the Jets could pick up?
I don't believe any of them
Hmm.
because you don't hear anything coming out of Glenn. So I don't know where the rumors would even come from because they're not coming out of the Jets building.
No.
Now, are the agents for these players putting it out there? Yeah, that's a possibility. Would I be surprised about the Lions receiver? No. Keenan Allen, eh, at this stage of his career, how much better is he really than Reynolds and Lazard? Yeah, and once again, I'm not defending Lazard, and if Rodgers eventually does sign with the Steelers, I wouldn't be surprised if Lazard is over there. But if he's on the Jets roster and he is a number two receiver, he is a good blocker.
Hmm.
And last year in 12 games, even though he had a ton of drops, he still caught 500 yards and 6 touchdowns before he got banged up.
Yeah.
And that's not bad numbers for a number two guy for 12 games.
No, it's not. And if you think about it too, because there's just so much going on with the team now. Now you have this, I don't know if you've seen it, this Brett Favre documentary that's coming out about his downfall.
Yes.
And it's now, and the Jets are involved because it would involve that Jets reporter. Oh, man.
I know. I remember when that came out. That was a disaster. It really was. It's like, if you know what it is, like the bad things never go away. And that's why I can't blame Glenn for flushing everything out and starting fresh.
Yeah.
Because he don't want any stench from the last 20 years from over there. You know, I feel bad people losing their jobs, and you know, I read a couple of the scouts already signed with other teams. You know, you know, a year from now, you could probably count on one hand how many people throughout the company was there 2 years ago.
Yeah, he definitely cleaned house.
Yes, in every department. You know, business, dietitian, training, coaches. I mean, play. I mean, this has been a clean sweep. The only thing you didn't get rid of is the owner.
Pretty much. And I'm sure if there's someone out there that's better, like a Steve Cohen, I'm sure maybe he'll be gone too.
Well, Glenn will broker a deal and talk Johnson into selling it to Steve Cohen.
Maybe, you never know. Hey, I think that would be best for the franchise, but let's see how Aaron Glenn is going to do here. I do believe in his vision. Like I said, I like what I've seen so far. It's just I want to see the results on the field.
Yes, yeah, that's all. That's all that matters. I'm setting the bar low, you know, because I'm trying to keep this realistic. I think Vegas has them at 5.5 over and under. You know, 6 to 7, I think would be. It's not a good year, but considering what's taken place and what's going on with the Jets, if they give me competitive football and Justin Fields is the answer at the end of the year and they win 7 games, I'm good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I really am. I mean, forget about play. I don't want anybody talking about playoffs. You know?
Another year down the tubes again.
Yeah, it's like, you know, if they enter the month of December and they're mathematically still in it, I'd be besides myself. I'd be thrilled.
I would be too. They would have overachieved at that point. Did you see that Elijah Moore signed a deal with the Bills? Did you see that?
I know he was visiting them. I didn't know he had a final. They signed them. Now, there's a guy, to be honest with you,
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have had a problem bringing him back.
Mm.
I really wouldn't have. You know, I think he'd be a nice slot receiver because what can I make out of Corey? You know, I got nothing to say this guy's going to produce.
No,
you know,
there's no guarantees. Like I said, I think it's fair to say you can really look at it that the receiving on this team is the biggest question mark. Yeah,
the offensive line is going to probably be one of the best units in the league if they stay healthy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Defensive line, you know, if one of these guys could step up and play tackle, I think they're in pretty good shape. The secondary should be good. Linebackers are decent. You know, running backs are good. The quarterback we don't know about yet. Yeah, the receiving room is really the biggest question mark right now.
It is, yeah. And you mentioned, too, with the linebackers, no C.J. Mosley anymore either.
I mean, he'll be missing with his leadership, but, you know, he's definitely lost a step or two. And, and he's been getting banged up. I have no problem going with Sherwood,
Mm-hmm.
and Williams, and even the linebacker they draft. They traded up to get him too.
Yeah.
I think, and he's going to get playing time. So it's just even the pass rusher, that guy Barron from Miami. And another thing about the draft, and I know Moogie kind of shot it down, but I don't believe him. He said that they asked him, well, it seems like every draft pick came from a major program. And he said, oh, it just happened to work out that way. And that, honestly, I think that's crap. Because, first of all, he doesn't tell you anything, number one.
No.
Number two, you could probably pull up the last 50 drafts. There's always going to be one obscure school that they take, a draft pick on, South Dakota State, Humboldt State, some weird school. But they went with SEC and, they went with a big time program.
Exactly. They are. And isn't it crazy too, watching it, even though he finished his career with the Jets, like Jason Taylor breaking out in tears and chanting the Jet chant. It's crazy when you really look at it, because he was majority pretty much a Dolphin his whole career.
You know what's a funny thing? When it comes to disliking players, and of course Tom Brady would be right in the conversation, but Jason Taylor really, really sticks out to me as one of the guys I really dislike very much. Strictly because of the Monday Night Miracle game and how he ditched the Jet chant and the Jet fans and all that garbage.
Mm-hmm.
And when they signed him and I found out he was wearing number 99, Gaston's number, I was besides myself. How could you bring this guy who hates the Jets to come play for you and all this and that? And I got to, talk with him a couple of times, and turned out to be a pretty humble, nice guy. And, he made some big plays. He had 5 or 6 sacks that 2010 season, and he made that big time play in the Steelers AFC Championship game that kept the Jets in the game.
That's true. He did. That was a big play. It definitely was.
So, it's as weird as it is, he was a Dolphin. And Zach Thomas is the uncle.
Yeah.
So that's even crazier. Zach Thomas ended Curtis Martin's career.
He did.
So it's so bizarre how things work out.
It is. It's strange, and now he's going to be at Jet games now, supporting his son. It's wild when you really look at it.
It really is, and I think he's going to be good. Mm-hmm. I really do.
It's about time they have a tight end.
Yeah, I once again, it's all projections.
Mm-hmm.
That's why, these people think, this team got an A, a B, a C. And nobody knows. In 2 years, you'll find out. But I think the one thing about Taylor, I think he could be at least a Dustin Keller type of player, if not more. And a lot of people, they never gave Dustin Keller any respect, but he was good for 65 catches and 4 or 5 touchdowns every year.
Yeah. That's true. He definitely was. People don't bring him up. He was an underrated tight end for sure. And we haven't had a tight end since then. And Tyler Conklin, I'm not going to miss him. We don't miss CJ Uzama. Jeremy Ruckert, his time is nearing the end here. We saw how he's been playing, and that's why we got Taylor.
Yep. And I'll tell you, the one thing to watch over the summer, they got that guy, the center, Josh Myers from the Packers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we talked about it on the last show. I think he's going to push Tippmann at center.
Probably.
Because not only did he start for 4 years in Green Bay for Rodgers and for Jordan Love, but he was Justin Fields center for 3 years at Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
So I just have I think I don't know really how many position battles there's going to be really honestly in training camp. But I think the one to really keep an eye on is the center position, because I think Myers is going to push him.
It's possible. I think it's going to happen just because of the Ohio State connection, especially.
Yep, I kind of tend to agree with you.
Yeah,
and if you have Pittman as your swing man, I have no problem. Center, guard, I have no problem at all.
No, more flexibility. And Aaron Rodgers, he still hasn't signed with the Steelers. It's still up in the air. Are they going to get this guy, or is he going to go? If I'm the Steelers, I wouldn't even want him. I wouldn't even touch him.
Yeah, I mean, You heard the comments he made that he has some personal issues going on, family issues, or whatever it might be. I feel bad if he's going through a hard time, and if that's holding him back, I get it. But I kind of agree with you. Like, unless they have a handshake agreement, like if they don't have a handshake agreement, and they're still waiting for him to give them an answer, then I've lost all respect for the Steelers, and Rodgers is really a couple of more notches down the pole, at least for me.
I agree. It was a disaster experiment, and it was just disappointing when I look. As soon as he tore the Achilles, you knew that it was just. It was
you
over.
knew it was over.
Yeah.
You knew it was over. you knew it was over. But I will say, I give him credit for coming back.
I do too. Yeah, you got to.
Between the age and the type of injury, I mean, let's hope Jermaine Johnson could come back like Aaron Rodgers did.
I hope so. I hope so, because he was having an impact for them. He really was. He
big time.
Showed a lot of promise.
Yep, and those edge rushers, they need that. You can't afford to lose a half a step. Look what happened to Carl Lawson. He wasn't able to same after he tore his Achilles.
No, that was terrible. Because I remember we talked about it. I think it was in camp. Remember he got injured in camp?
Yes, it was in a joint scrimmage with the Packers.
Yeah, and I texted you when it happened. I couldn't believe it because he was such a big move for them, and he was going to be like one of these emerging big guys in the league, and then all of a sudden it was done. Oh.
Yeah, I know. I was expecting like a 15-sack season from this guy. And, boom. One practice and boom, it's all over. It's really amazing. And I think there's a couple of more cuts coming. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know when the pressure is going to be on, at the next level. But, I read a lot of good things about Davis, the Ole Miss kicker that they picked up undrafted. I wouldn't be shocked at all if he's opening day starter.
It's possible. I wouldn't. It's going to be interesting, too. Speaking of kickers, is Tucker still going to be on the Ravens? What's going on with that? We never heard an update.
What happened with him? I mean, how could you be like one of the best ever, and it just everything went south?
Yeah, that whole division is just a lot of scandals between Big Ben and Deshaun Watson. All the scandals in that division. It's crazy.
We get to play him this year. Oh yeah, wouldn't it be funny if I'm wrong and Sanders actually wins the starting job, and the Browns play the Jets with Sanders? That would be typical Jets. But
it would be.
I can't blame them. It just there were too many negative things. You heard about this kid. Imagine. The night, after he got drafted, he was walking around with a suitcase with $1 million in cash. I mean, come on, really? Come on. What are you doing?
Oh, unbelievable.
And from what I read, if it's true, it was a gift. So who is he involved with? It can't be good. I mean,
they gave $1 million.
How many people give gifts of Louis Vuitton suitcase with $1 million in cash? It's either got to be somebody that you don't want to get involved with, or it's got to be one of these musical type of people. And so he's kind of hooked up with the wrong people if he's getting $1 million cash gift.
Yeah, I don't know how he got that money, but I did see that he was going around with the money and things like that at the draft. I know that was a big talking point on the networks.
Yeah, it really was, and it's going to be interesting to follow. I mean, I wish him well. I hope he gets his head right and has a nice career. But my money is, like I said, he'll probably be out of this league in 3 years. It wouldn't surprise me.
It wouldn't. There's so much hype around him, and I hope he does pan out. I want to see him pan out. It's just, I don't know. I was surprised to see him drop that low. There was a point where I thought he was going to go undrafted too.
That's how I felt. And the funny thing is, my draft magazine that I read had him on the front cover as a number 1 pick.
And he dropped all the way to the 5th round.
I mean, Geno Smith only dropped to the 2nd round. This guy dropped to the 5th.
What's funny? You bring up Geno Smith. I thought about that when he didn't make it out of the 1st round. I said, oh, this is going to be like Geno Smith. He's going to go in the 2nd round. And he ended up being way later.
Well, how about the fact that Hackenberg got drafted higher than this year than Sanders.
He did, yeah. Oh, that's a disgrace. I mean, we always talk about Hackenberg. Yeah, I'll tell you what, I would take Sanders over Hackenberg. Oh my god.
Yeah, that was on that. To this day, I still have no idea what they saw in him. I just don't get it.
I think that's the worst pick ever. Like, I mean, I would definitely say it's probably the worst Jets pick, but that could be the worst pick ever made by a team.
It's right up there. Let's put it that way. It's right up there. I mean, he never played it down in the NFL, which has happened to a lot of draft picks. Mm-hmm. But it just, even at practice, he was just god awful. He was just awful. It's like he didn't look like a professional quarterback. There was I remember talking with some of the writers and some of the fans, and people were you would laugh watching him try to throw passes, and then every once in a while he'd throw one. It's like, this is what they see in this guy, and then 10 more passes after that. It's just, why is he on the team?
He was horrible. He was. I still don't get that. McCagnon picked him. That was a terrible pick. Awful.
That was just absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah.
But I am looking forward to the schedule. It comes out on the 14th, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really funny. I think this Pittsburgh situation, because I felt if Rodgers was on the Steelers, that would be an early evening game at MetLife because of the drama. But now that the schedules that are coming out on the 14th, if Rodgers hasn't committed yet to the Steelers, I think that Steeler game gets slated probably after about week 5 or 6, because if he is playing for the Steelers and he's coming to MetLife, that game's going to be a night game. So at least they could flex it if they have to.
Oh, yeah. That's what'll happen. It'll be prime time, too.
Oh, big time. Especially if he happens to be playing well, and
if he burns us, oh man.
Oh well, chances are he will, But I tell you one thing though, I did just recently read that the Steelers, and from a couple of sources actually, that the Steelers, that Justin Fields was their number one choice, and they offered him a nice contract. But the reason he left is he didn't trust them.
Wow.
Because what was it, 4-2? They benched him. And even when Russell Wilson was struggling at the end, they never went back to him. And, he was having a good year.
He was, yeah. They bent it. That was, I don't know. It definitely was a head scratcher why they did that. I guess because Russell Wilson has more experience, but he was leading them in the right direction. He was winning.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so he wasn't stretching the field or scoring as many points as they would have liked to. But, at the end of the day, they were 4-2. He wasn't turning the ball over. He had 5 touchdown passes, 5 rushing touchdowns, and they were winning. Mm-hmm. So why would you make a change?
I don't get it. Yeah, I don't understand it. And I hope that this is his revenge season and revenge seasons to come. I really want to see that Ohio State in him. That's what I want to see.
That's what I want to see, and I think he stays healthy, and once again I have no idea what this henchman, the offensive coordinator. I have no idea what type of offense this guy's going to run. You could only think it's going to be similar to what the Lions do, and I think it'll be run heavy. Mm-hmm. And I think if they could keep Fields between 20 to 25 passes a game, I think that would be a game plan. And I think if he has to start throwing 35 passes a game, I think, that's probably not a good thing for him.
No. Yeah, I agree. It's going to be run heavy, and I'm sure they're going to use a lot of the tight end with Taylor because when you look at Detroit, they use a lot of Laporta. So.
Yep, and you know what? I also did read, I think I got this right. There's only the top 3 quarterbacks with QBR rating to tight ends throwing the ball to. Mm-hmm. So the top 3 guys are Brock Purdy, in no particular order, Lamar Jackson, and Justin Fields. And I actually think Justin Fields had a higher percentage than the other 2.
Oh, that's crazy. I didn't even know that. That's
Yeah,
yeah, that he
yeah. He
was
had
in the
like
list.
like an 80. I read an 87 something QBR rating, and yeah. So he definitely likes to go to his tight end.
Yeah, it's going to fit the system that they have right now.
Yep, yep. And didn't that Josh Laporta have a big year for the Lions?
He did, yeah.
Okay, so you could kind of connect the dots. You could see it coming,
Yeah.
and and we all know that they don't have a 1A at number two receiver, no matter who that might be.
No.
So it's going to be running back. Well, I think the tight end and the running back are going to be very heavily involved in the passing game.
Yeah, it's probably how it's going to turn out to be.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. And did you hear? By the way, did you hear Joe Douglas was doing some type of radio show on the draft?
Oh, no, I did not hear about this. Oh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And so look at Jamar Gibbs. That's the star running back for the Lions.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that that's the guy he wanted to draft. And what? Oh man! I should have before I closed. I should have wrote this down. And he ended up. They picked somebody else, and they passed up on Gibbs. I forgot how the whole story went, but Douglas admitted that Gibbs was his guy, and they didn't take him.
Oh, horrible. I won't miss Douglas either. I won't.
Oh, please.
He was horrible. Everyone was like, "Oh, look what he did with the Eagles. He came here and he did absolutely nothing. He had some okay picks, but a lot of them, he wasn't that good."
Well, some of his okay picks were no brainers. Also, I mean, Gardner, Hall, Jermaine Johnson, Wilson. I mean, you and I could draft people like that.
Exactly.
It's just it's what he did with the rest of the stuff was kind of shaky, and he had 6 years. But I think the only thing that you got kind of lasting memory of Joe Douglas as a GM for the Jets, he did kind of get the offensive line somewhat straightened out, not completely, but he did kind of get a core nucleus. We got Pittman, we got Tucker, we got Simpson. So, at least he got, 3 out of the 5.
Yeah. At least there's we could take a positive out of it, I guess.
yeah, but he was a horrible general manager.
He was horrible. He's right up there. McCagnon was he had awful drafts and his contracts were terrible. It's like Tremaine Johnson, that was a horrible contract.
Well, look at John Idzik. John Idzik's right up there too. It's like it's. Idzik, McCagnon, Douglas, and that's why we're in the shape that we're in.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, and that's how it was. They went from Idzik to McCagnon to Douglas.
Horrible.
That's exactly what they did. They went from bad to worse to horrible.
Yeah. Let's hope that Muhe here is better.
We hope so, but I don't think it's his call. I think Glenn. Well, they did. Glenn's got final say and everything. So he's running the show. I'm of course movie, has major input. He's the general manager, but once again, if he wants to do something and Glenn doesn't like it, or they're not on the same page, Glenn gets the deciding vote.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how these picks turn out. And like you said, the schedule comes out 14th, and camp's going to be underway pretty soon here too.
Oh my God, I can't believe it! I can't believe today's May 1st and June, July, between 12 weeks of camp. It's crazy. It's really, really crazy.
It is crazy. It definitely is.
But the draft is over, and like I said, one more thing, got the schedule coming up, and you could settle in and watch the Mets, let me ask you, you're a Mets fan.
Yeah, I'm a Mets fan. Mm-hmm.
I know Soto hit 2 homers today.
He did, yes.
I haven't watched baseball in 30 years, but I've been putting it on a little because of him. What went on with him the first 4 weeks?
Yeah, he just couldn't hit at home. It was weird. He just wasn't. He was hitting on the road a little bit, but yeah, he hasn't really done much since he got here. I know the fans have kind of got on him, and it was more media driven, but yeah, he really hasn't done much. Today was his explosive day, 2 home runs, and the Mets lost today, which is crazy. They've still lost the game.
Yeah, well, I tell you, I think once again, it's funny I'm commenting on baseball, but I just think as a player in any sport, especially a guy like him with the contract that he got and the pressure, I think now that the pressure's off, I think now I guess he'll kind of show you what he's all about, I guess.
I want to see it, especially with the contract. That's what we got him for. So I want to see the Mets make it to the World Series. It's long overdue. Especially with a win. They should have won in 2015, but it's long overdue for them to get a win.
Is that the last time they were in the World Series?
Yeah, 2015. Mm-hmm.
Oh wow, yeah, that is quite a while.
Yeah, it is.
Well, it's better than 1969 when last time the Jets won the Super Bowl.
Exactly. Or the Knicks. The Knicks haven't been. Well, they've been to the finals in 1999, but they haven't won since '73.
Since '73, I know it's unbelievable. It really is. Mets, Knicks, Jets. It's just you can't make it up.
No, you can't. And it's in the biggest city in the world, the biggest market, and they just can't figure it out. It's unbelievable.
It really is. They can't figure it out. It really is. But looking forward to the next show. And,
absolutely.
I guess we'll be talking before training camp, I would assume.
Yeah, probably right after the schedule and right before training camp.
Yeah, we could always do the win-loss thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we can go over the whole what our predictions will be, if there's going to be an overachieve or an underachieving season. Let's hope it's an overachieve.
Yes, and then we could turn back at the end of the year and whatever we picked, we were completely wrong on everything.
Yeah, exactly. Oh,
you know how it works out. They can't be this team or that team, but they got they got Carolina Panthers this year. That's not that's a walk in the cake, and they lose to the Panthers and they beat the Chiefs.
Yeah,
I think every team, except if you go like 2-15. If you look at every team, there's 1 or 2 games. It always works out that way.
It's true.
You lose to a team that you were a sure thing to win, and you beat a team that you should have got blown out by.
That's usually how it happens. You see it every year.
Every year, and it's always been that way.
Yeah.
It's always been that way. So we'll look forward to talking to you next, and thanks for having me.
Of course, Ira. It's always a pleasure. I look forward to talking about the Jets schedule, and let's see what else happens in the next few weeks with this team.
Sounds good. Have a good night, man.
You too, Ira. Take care.
Thanks.
Yeah, bye-bye.